Hi, I'm Todd Alone. Today we're talking Hike for Hospice and a young man who was taken away from us way too soon in our community, and that's Miles Lynch. Today I'm joined by his mother, Linda, welcome, as well as Rhonda Simpson, who is the fundraising manager of the hospice right here in Cornwall. First of all, we're going to talk about a great event, but we're also going to talk about a great center that if you haven't experienced it yet, we don't wish people to, but if you're gonna, it's a great feeling. And Linda, let's talk first and foremost before we talk about the event that's coming up. Your son made a great impact in this community, as well as everybody who got to know him. And if you didn't know him, you obviously heard about him, and that's Miles.
Yes.
And maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and before we talk about the event, how hospice and you and your family come so close.
So Miles was an individual that really wanted to show people that he didn't need hospice, in the sense that he just wanted to always portray an image that he was okay. And so for him, hospice was not the option, but he did have the connection with the hospice because he had the palliative care doctors that came to our home. And they kind of helped prepare him for the eventual coming of his death. So I guess that's the connection that I have with hospice, because I didn't go into hospice with him or by myself, because it was something that he did not wanted to receive in the care because he thought he was too young. And I guess that's where I have to leave it at, because yeah, he didn't want to go inside the building.
And you know,
I didn't either.
And I'm sure Rhonda's going to tell us a little later some stories in regards to that as well. But when you look at your son, obviously there was a connection from the outside in, for lack of better words.
Yes.
And you know, everybody does it the way they choose to. And lucky enough for
Absolutely.
Miles, he was in that position that he could.
He could. And we had enough support at home. My husband helped out, I helped out, and my daughter would help out. So we became his team of support to try to have him live his life the best he could. When you're born with cystic fibrosis, and then you have complications with your health, you have to have medical treatments, a lot of times pulmonary function tests, because your lung function decreases because of the bacteria growth, and it's almost like your whole nasal passages and so on, your lungs are filled with like rubber cement glue, I could say, and then the bacteria grows very quickly, and so you have a lot of hospital admissions, like 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks at a time, and so on. So it's an up and down, but he was always positive, and he didn't know any difference, so he lived his life as best he could to the fullest of, you know, that you can do with a life-limiting illness.
And again, that was only 4 years ago, and basically you were still teaching at the Catholic District School Board of Eastern Ontario,
I was.
which actually gave you some great bonding time with your son.
Yes, I was teaching online at the time because of COVID. They gave teachers who had maybe a worry that they would get COVID, for the you know, they're vulnerable ones, so it could be an adult that was senior, or for him it was his cystic fibrosis. He would be very much more susceptible to getting the disease. So the Catholic District School Board did offer me a position I could teach from at home, and that was ideal. So I taught from a computer, from the laptop, and I could be in the same room as my son as I'm teaching. Technically speaking, he would, go off and wander off to the other side of the house, but
You were with him.
he was with me all the time, so that was really nice.
And we're going to come back and talk a little more about Miles shortly. And again, that face and smile, I do know, was contagious within the
Yes.
community. Rhonda, obviously you're the fundraising manager now at the hospice, and lots goes on there. Big event coming up, and that's a
Yes.
Hike for Hospice.
Yes. We're excited for Hike for Hospice this year. It's May 3rd, happening on May 3rd, Sunday. It's an event that's a national event across Canada, so everybody, laces up their laces and does a walk for a great cause to be able to spread awareness of hospice palliative care, as well as raise funds for hospice. But it's also a way to memorialize someone that's passed that they want to remember on that day.
I want to remind our viewers as well, and we were talking before we came on here, how many of us have been into the hospice up to this point, and some haven't. And it's not a place you wish upon people, for the simple fact is it's life-ending. In my case, my mom, my uncle, and my father-in-law were there. And I'll tell you, ladies, what I appreciate about the hospice, even though it's end-of-life care, it was feeling of being at home with your loved one.
Yes.
And Rhonda, we know how important the community dollars are through these events. Maybe you can remind our viewers how participating in this, as well as other events, especially this one right now, because it's coming sooner, how that money helps maintain that facility.
For sure. Hospice is, we rely heavily on donor money. So it's 40% of our funds of our annual budget are raised through fundraising dollars and donors. So we rely heavily on our community to be able to support our events, to be able to donate to hospice, to continue to keep the doors open and provide the care that we always do. So without the help, and we're so grateful for every dollar, and without that help, we wouldn't be able to stay open. So it's very important, and we're very grateful for anybody who participates in events, to donate, to even volunteering. So it's very important to give back to hospice.
And I do know right here on your TV with Chris Rode and the staff and the volunteers how important it is to this operation and facility. And tell us, as well as our viewers, how can they participate or volunteer or maybe even donate or help at the Hike for
event
Hospice?
for the hike? Well, first of all, you can come and join us on Sunday, May 3rd. You can either participate on your own, you can get a team together, you can register on our website, either as a team or an individual. Right there, you'll have a pledge form to be able to go to your friends and family and solicit pledges for your team or yourself to be able to, and it becomes a very competitive thing of who can raise the most and things like that. So it makes it fun. But if you're unable to attend, consider pledging somebody who is attending. Consider donating on the website. You can consider to volunteer to come. If you don't want to walk or hike, we always need volunteers. So just coming to help out the day of and being part of the festivities, that's what makes hospice a family. It's not just about handouts for money, it's about becoming a family of hospice. And if none of that is available, just spread the word for us. Share it on Facebook, spread the word. So the more people that are aware that it's happening, hopefully the more people will join us.
We're going to get back to you and talk more about participating, maybe coming up with creative new events,
Yes.
as well as donating, because the hospice will take your money year-round. For the simple fact is, Rhonda's alluded to how important it is to maintain the facility. Linda, again, going back to Miles, obviously the connection that you made with the hospice and what you're doing now at the hospice. Maybe you can share with our viewers how it's helped you and how you participate by volunteering.
So whenever I was grieving the loss, no one wants to be a loser, basically. So when you lose somebody, you're feeling that, like you're brought down so far in life, like you're grieving. It's hard to explain, but it's hard to get up from that. So going for a walk or going for a bike ride really helped me. So this hike for hospice is a fantastic idea because you're going out there with a group of people and you're walking. So you're just walking on 2nd Street and then close to where the soccer fields are, and then going across, there's a kind of like a bridge, and then you're going to the bike path. And so you can go for as long as you want or as short as you want, but if you pledge $20, let's say you go for a 2-kilometer walk, or like if you did $30, well, why don't you go for a 3-kilometer walk? It doesn't matter, but you're getting out there and you're walking, and when you do that walk, and your mood can elevate, and you're with a group of people, a solidarity, walking together as a group. So what I do when I volunteer is I go from room to room, and I just make sure that they have 2 bath towels, 6 hand towels, and 6 face cloths, and you just make sure it's in the cupboard. And then you have there's blankets or bed sheets, so just make sure that everybody has enough of those. And then there's mouth care, like there's another cupboard, and then body wash care and stuff. So I just go in the room and then I chit chat with them, and I find it gives me the opportunity sometimes to talk about Miles. And that I find is so important for me to know that, everybody kind of worries, where are you going to go? And I remember just holding somebody's hand, and saying, it's going to be okay. Your life doesn't really end because we're going to remember you in a way that you've always presented yourself, right? So you can always think about them in a special way. So I said, sometimes you're going to do something, and like even after you've passed it and you don't even realize you're doing it. You could be helping one of the nurses one day just by the laughter you've brought, or things that you've shared, and so on. And that lifts people up, and it keeps them going,
keeps
right?
you going,
And
too.
it keeps me going, because like after a while you kind of put together all the good things that have happened in your mind. You try to hang on to those, all those good moments I've had with Miles. Like, I mean, he went through 3 successful, what they call successful, if it's more than a year, double lung transplants. And so you have those, oh my gosh, he did that, he did that, he did that. And it was, and at prior to that, when he was 14, he was told he wouldn't get 1 double lung transplant. So it was, you just don't know. Like, sometimes I've seen people in hospice too, that they come in, they're diagnosed with cancer, and then all of a sudden they're out of the hospital or out of the hospice care, because all of a sudden it wasn't their time, and it turns around and they're out in the street. They're going to the theater, and you're like, oh, okay, So it just because you went into hospice doesn't mean you're gonna die there. You could bounce back. They give you such good care that you just don't know.
I can't imagine losing a child.
No.
And second of all, I like most people, we wouldn't want to even experience that.
Yeah.
But you have. Doing your volunteer work, which you alluded to, knowing Miles is looking down and seeing you in the hospice. How does that make you feel?
Well, I can just picture him still saying, Mom, just keep going. No matter
I
what
get
happens
to.
to me, just keep going. And anytime he worked for Domino's Pizza, he'd be like, I get to do this job.
Yes.
And that was so special. I get to
Love that.
teach online. I get to go to hospice. Not, I got to go to hospice now. No, I get to. And if you change the way you look at life, the way he did, and say to yourself, I get to do this. He did so many things because he thought, I could do this, and I get to do this. I got to do this before I pass, because I know my time is going to be limited. He did go to college and had to stop the courses because he was listed for a second double lung transplant, and it was so hard for him to write the exam and be listed. Like, you're handing your phone over. Okay, now I've got to write my exam. So you're trying to think, and you're doing your work. And I says, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Like, you need to take the semester off, anyways, because it doesn't make sense to keep going. Because he did all his high school courses, and he was in grade 11 when he got the double lung transplant, the first one. And so then he had to finish up his grade 11 and 12, and he did the extra lap because he was only doing 3 credits at a time. But he got to graduate. Like, he, and he had to be released for a time period, like from 4 in the afternoon until 10 the next morning. They gave him a break from the hospital so he could come to his graduation. He got to do that. So my husband picked him up and brought him there, and then he went to the after party, and at 5 in the morning brought him to the train station, and then from the train we'll see what happens. And then he had to take a taxi from there to get to the hospital again, because it was in Toronto. And this is what he got to do. This is his story. He gets to do this. So when you change your attitude and say, oh, I have to do this, oh, and it's so hard. No, I get to do this. You do it as much as you can. You keep going, right?
Quoting Miles Lynch,
I get to.
I get to do this, goes back to Rhonda.
And to add to that, if I can add to that, we met last week, and she shared this story, and I've been using that, honestly. It was inspiring to me. It was like, he's dealt this crazy, sad hand, and it's an emotional story, but I took, okay, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, it's everything, but I took the emotional part of it and the inspirational part of it more so, that the way he handled that, and the way you've done that too, I wonder where he got it. Because he was role modeled that that's the attitude you take, and that's what you took after he passed, is by giving back to hospice, and that helped you with your grieving, and it didn't only help us, it helped you too. So I think that's what's important about hospice and grieving, and this is a perfect example of how giving back, even if it's not monetary donations, it's giving back to hospice to not only help us, but we're happy to hear that it helped you too through your grieving period. And it's inspirational.
Very inspirational.
Yeah, very.
And thank you for sharing.
Yes, absolutely.
And Rhonda, again, let's just remind our viewers about the great event that's coming up at Hike for Hospice. Let's just, again, tell our viewers how they can participate, donate, or volunteer.
Donate, volunteer, participate, pledge. Another one too is we have sponsors for the event. There is still time to do sponsorship for our event. We're very grateful for our sponsors this year. We're very lucky to have our title sponsor, which is Dignity Memorial, the Hay and Sullivan Cornwall Funeral Homes, and M. John Sullivan. They're our title sponsor this year. So this year's hike is brought to us by them, and we have many other sponsors too that we're so grateful for. So, and just spread the word. That's the most important part. But come and enjoy the event, because it's a family day that we can, you exercise, there's music, there's a warm-up. We have a lot of activities of face painting for kids. We're having a barbecue after the walk. And we say hike, like you alluded to.
Yeah, exactly.
People say, I have to hike. It's just a walk. If you want to hike, you can hike. If you want to walk from here to the corner, it's not about the money. It's not about, and it's about coming together. So whatever you can do. So come to participate. And the barbecue after is hosted by Kinsman Cornwall Liftoff, that we're very appreciative for them doing that. So they're always there to help us too. So just come out for the day.
Perfect. And thank you both for being here today.
You usually get some guest speakers to come too. I remember having,
yes, we will have some guest speakers.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have some guest speakers.
Mr.
And
Quinn
I will point out that this year, for people who have been to it before, we were fortunate enough last summer to be chosen as the recipient for the Habitat for Humanity beautification project. So they chose a charity to be able to beautify their space. So we chose to revamp our memorial rock garden in the front, in the parking lot. So they came in, they did an amazing job, they revamped everything. So now everybody who stays in hospice has the opportunity to paint a rock in memory of their loved one, and it goes in that garden. So this year we're going to do that as a memorial too, to be able to, if you want to, the day of hike, to be able to paint a rock in memory. So I don't know if Miles has one or not.
Does not
but
have
I
one.
think you should. I will help you.
All right,
And
sounds good.
yeah, they can paint their rocks, and then that won't just be the day of hike, it'll be there for years to come. So I think that's an extra added little thing that we want to touch on from the revamp of our memorial rock garden. So I think it'll be a nice extra little emotional touch for people.
Very nice. And again, I want to thank Linda for being here and talking about
Thank
her
you,
son, as well as your connection to hospice. And Rhonda, thank you for being here representing the Hospice Cornwall and talking about the events that are coming up. And I want to again remind viewers about the event, Hike for Hospice, coming up in May. And like a young community member said, he gets to do this.
Yes.
This is your opportunity to help Cornwall Hospice in the name of Miles Lynch. I'm Todd Lalone for Community Matters.
Aw.